Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. May I request you all to please kindly take your seats. Welcome to the post-tea session. This is the Industry Roundtable, Catalyzing National Industrial Capabilities for Space and Defense. We will have esteemed representatives from large enterprises and DPSUs, and they will share their insights on navigating regulatory landscapes, fostering innovation, and addressing technological hurdles. Please kindly have your seats. We are ready to start the session. Since we are really behind time, I would request you all to please kindly take your seats as quickly as possible. It gives me great pleasure to request the esteemed chair and the moderator of this session to kindly join us on the stage. Please put your hands together and kindly give a warm welcome to Air Chief Marshal R.K.S. Bhadauria, PVSM, AVSM, VM, ADC, retired, head, UP Defence Corridor. A very warm welcome to the esteemed chair. We warmly welcome our panelists onto the dais. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Seema Yadav, Additional General Manager, Bharat Electronics Limited. We warmly welcome Mr. Ved Prakash G, Head Business Development and Government Relations, TASL. A warm welcome to Mr. Vikas Khita, Vice President and Head Corporate Office, Delhi L&T Defence. A warm welcome to Mr. Samit Ray, Deputy Vice President, South Asia Government Affairs, Raytheon Technologies Corporation. And a warm and hearty welcome to Colonel Rajneesh Singh, Retired Research Fellow, Manohar Parikar, IDSA. We are still missing one panelist. I guess they will be joining us shortly. Meanwhile, I hand it over to the esteemed chair. It's over to you, sir, to take the session forward.
Thank you very much. You said head UP Defence Corridor. I am not head, I am just advisor. My head and heady days are over. So it's just on the advisory side and retired side, okay? Just to correct it. Okay, and now I welcome all the panelists. The names have already been taken. I think you know them all well, so I don't want to spend time on introductions. You know the background and the areas that they are heading, the companies and DPSUs. So let's start straight away. What we'll do is we will have about 6 to 7 minutes each, or maybe up to 8 minutes. If somebody has a long presentation, you can take my time. And we will cover everything individually. Towards the end, I will, kind of summarize and give my perspective a little, and then have enough time for interaction. I think that is what is important. Just a point from opening remark from my side that on the space side, I don't have to really underscore the importance, and especially the events of the last year and how things are moving globally. I think it's becoming increasingly important. And my own sense is that we've been talking and, talking about all the issues, and I don't think there is anything in theory that we don't know over the last 2-3 years, but have not acted much on every pillar that is concerned with really setting up the space in terms of infrastructure, really getting to, and I'm talking of indigenous manufacture and R&D. And I think the industry perspective from that area in that space is very important to really see what is really lacking and how do we get on and convert what we talk into actions. And I would like all the panelists to really throw their weight behind on these issues as to what we really should do and how to start making a difference on ground, how to really put things in motion. With that, I hand over, I think in the same sequence as has been covered. So please start, and we will take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Seema Yadav, Additional General Manager in Bharat Electronics Limited, BEL Ghaziabad. First of all, I would like to thank SIA-INDIA for giving me this opportunity to represent BEL in this forum. As most of you must be knowing about BEL, BEL is a premier defense PSU in the field of aerospace and defense electronics. We are a multi-technology, multi-product company with pan-India presence, and we are a Navratna PSU serving the defense forces for last 7 decades. We are working in the field of satellite communication, radar, sonar, antennas, command and control systems, electronic warfare systems, avionics, electro-optics, tank electronics, etc., etc. So you name any field in defense electronics, we are there. We have 9 manufacturing units, 2 central research laboratory, and 1 product development and innovation center in India. We also have 6 overseas offices for export and foreign collaborations. We have a dedicated strategic business unit, we call it SBU, in BEL Ghaziabad to address the requirements of satellite communication and space domain. We have implemented several SATCOM networks for Indian Army, Navy, Air Force, MHA, and ISRO. We provide the complete ground segment for the network, including the earth stations and the remote nodes, with 24/7 support throughout the complete life cycle of the program. Our SATCOM product portfolio covers different types of SATCOM antennas, man-portable terminals, handheld terminals, transportable terminals, RF amplifiers, communication controller, and network management software, etc., which has been developed as part of import substitution and indigenous solution. We are qualified as an industry partner of ISRO for assembly, integration, and testing, that is AIT of satellite. We have collaborated with ISRO for the development of products like IRNSS and space-grade TWTs. Our long-term objective is development of space-based assets, payloads, production of satellites and launch vehicles with support from ISRO. We have also developed a prototype SSA software which can be integrated with IACCS to provide a comprehensive air and space situation picture. Now coming to the topic, coming to catalyzing national industrial capabilities for space and defense. Defense PSUs like BEL play a crucial role in synergizing the defense R&D and innovative ecosystem. We support the country's strategic goals and play a key role in technological advancements and self-reliance of our country. We are actively involved in a lot of R&D and indigenization work. Defense PSUs play a major role in catalyzing the national industrial capabilities through many ways. I'll just bring out the 8 main points. First is technology development and technology transfer, indigenous manufacturing and large-scale production, critical infrastructure development, collaboration with research organizations, academia, and startups, partnering with private industries, skilling and workforce development, execution of strategic projects, and building up an innovative ecosystem. In one of the earlier sessions on the first day, General Pannu mentioned that the defense innovation ecosystem comprises of research organizations, industries, academia, startups, investors, users, that is our Army, Navy, Air Force, and the Government of India. We work in close collaboration with all these agencies for bringing in the synergy. We work in close collaboration with various DRDO labs, various ISRO departments, different industries, and our defense forces for new technology and new product development. We also engage in technology transfer programs from foreign companies for bridging the technological gaps and enhancing the domestic capabilities. We also work on dual-use technologies for use in both defense as well as non-defense segments. We encourage the startups by fostering their innovative ideas and subsequently converting these ideas into products and absorption into the defense programs. BEL has a strong culture of encouraging R&D and innovation. We have opened up several R&D centers, one at IIT Madras, Kochi, IISc Bangalore, In collaboration with Indian Navy, we have opened up an incubation center for artificial intelligence at our CRL Bangalore, and we are also opening a startup incubation center at our CRL Ghaziabad. We are part of Defense Innovation Organization, that is DIO, which is a non-profit organization. We fund the IDEX program for development of innovative solutions by the startups. IDEX is funded and managed by DIO. We are investing around 50 crores in this program. Initially, only BEL and HAL were part of this program, but later on, other DPSUs have also joined in. We fund around 1.5 crore for each IDEX challenge and 10 crore for each IDEX Prime challenge. Until now, we have provided contracts for 5 IDEX challenges and 1 open challenge. Now coming to the critical infrastructure development, BEL has advanced manufacturing and testing facilities in all our 9 units. We provide these facilities to our partners and collaborators for testing and evaluation. As part of Defense Industrial Corridor, as Sir is advisor of that, BEL is establishing 2 major testing facilities in UP and 2 in Tamil Nadu under the DTIS scheme, that is the Defense Testing Infrastructure Scheme. We are playing lead role in establishing the communication system testing facility at IIT Kanpur Techno Park. It is being established through a consortium of DPSUs and UPEIDA. We are also establishing testing facility for electronic warfare systems, that is in Sri Perumbudur in Tamil Nadu, through a consortium of DPSUs and TEDCO. Apart from these, we are establishing testing facility for unmanned aerial system at IIT Kanpur Techno Park and electro-optics system in Tamil Nadu, along with other DPSUs. And the main objective of this DTIS scheme is to promote the indigenous defense manufacturing by participation of MSMEs and startups by bridging the gap in the testing infrastructure in our country. This will be used as a common testing facility and all industries will have easy access to these facilities. As part of UP Defense Corridor, we are enhancing our facility at BEL Ghaziabad for space and defense. We are also building up an extension of BEL Ghaziabad unit at Agra for creating infrastructure for integration and testing of radars and missile systems. We are also building up infrastructure for satellite AIT. Now coming to the end, in the end I would say BEL and other defense PSUs play a major role in execution of strategic defense programs. We have a good understanding of defense user requirements and a rich experience of executing big and mission critical programs. So we execute these programs by being in the forefront and in the lead role by taking support from other partners, from industries and other agencies. This is how we build up an ecosystem for catalyzing the capabilities of all. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, Seema. Great points made. I think BEL, being one of the big players, needs to be enabler for the entire private sector. And if going by a presentation, that is the line and the thinking, I think that's great. I would request TSL to kindly start. I think Ved Prakash, okay, Ved Prakash. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. No. It's, if you want, we can do the presentations from here also.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon to all of you. So I'm Ved Prakash. I head the business development and government relationship for Tata Advanced Systems Limited. And first of all, I would like to thank SIA-INDIA for giving me this opportunity to, come as a panel and then talk to you. And Tata Advanced Systems, I think it does not need much introduction, but for the sake of completeness, I'll just give you a small overview of Tata Advanced System. It is one of the large private industrial company, so who are into design, development and manufacturing of defense and aerospace systems. And we are a part of Tata Sons. Tata Group is a $300 billion group with almost 1 million employees. And more than anything else, it is known for its trust and also the kind of prideness it generates in the Indians, that is immense. So on the Tata Advanced Systems, we have 4 business units. The first one is on the aerostructures and aero engines. So we partner with the major aerospace OEMs like Sikorsky, Boeing, and Airbus, etc. for the aerostructures, and also with GE for the aero engine parts. And the second business unit is the airborne platforms and systems. So this is where we have tied up with Airbus, and then we have got a large contract of C295 for which is the medium lift aircraft for the logistics purpose. And then we have got this contract from Indian Air Force for 56 numbers. And then the 16 numbers will be executed directly through Airbus in Spain. And then the remaining 40 numbers will be manufactured at Bhadauria facility in India by our team. So we will be the first private company to manufacture such aircraft. And then the second, recently I think you would have read in the news on the Republic Day, our chairman has signed with Airbus to manufacture this H125 helicopter. So I think the first helicopter is supposed to come out in 2026. So then on the weapons and sensors, so we design and manufacture various weapon systems like artillery gun systems and the Pinaka rocket systems and various missile launchers. And on the sensors, we have excellent capabilities in electro-optic systems and electronic warfare system. In fact, we are supplying a large order. We are executing a large order of IEWS, Integrated Electronic Warfare Systems, for Indian Army. And on the other sensors like radars and the portable divert detection sonar systems. So these are the other sensors. And then the fourth business unit is the land mobility systems, in which we manufacture trucks and combat vehicles and combat support equipments, etc. So being addressed the 3 frontiers of land, sea, and also the airspace. So the fourth frontier of space also we are addressing. So we started our association with space many decades back in terms of manufacturing the space grade components. We used to manufacture the yoke, then the aluminum plate, interstage panel, solar panel for ISRO. And then a few years back we got qualified for the assembly integration testing, and then we have integrated the Cartosat as well as I think Cartosat 3 and Microsat. And we were actually seeing the developments which are happening, like the space economy being opened up, and then the new space policy coming in picture. So we also studied the kind of opportunities the space is offering to Indian industries. And then we found out that on the EO space, electro-optic observation space, so the current market of $0.5 billion in India, it is going to grow at a CAGR of 28%, and then it becomes like $8 billion in the year 2033. So which is still 3% of the global market. So that means there is a huge opportunity in and also huge growth rate in the EO. So that's why we first wanted to venture into the EO segment, Earth observation segment. And also when we started interacting with the strategic community, then we found out that there is nobody in India who meets their operational requirement. and then there is a huge gap, and also they have to depend on the foreign satellites. So and also they said they wanted to bridge this gap at the earliest, maybe in a time period of 3 to 4 months. So that is the kind of requirement they said. So then we were looking for some strategic partner who can actually give us the technology, and obviously who is offering the top grade or the high class the technology, and also who can give us at a competitive rate, because finally everything boils down to L1, and then who can offer the best product at L1. So then we found a partner from Uruguay, and then we had tied up with them, and then now we have established the complete facility of assembly, integration and testing at near Bangalore. It's called as Vemgal, and also we have tied up with them for the next futuristic payload co-development as well. So that is how we have built the sovereign capability, and so right now, as our chairman always tells, first you actually manufacture, or first you build and then develop or design. So he always wants to go in the reverse. First you meet the demand or the immediate requirement of the forces, and then you start to develop, and then how you can improve upon, how you can innovate. So that is the same route that we have taken, and no doubt so we are launching our satellite in April. So already this satellite is ready, and we are actually, in fact, we were looking for a slot from Indian rocket, and then we could not get the slot, so that's why we had to launch it from SpaceX. So the satellite is ready. I think in April you may see the news that that will get launched. So basically this will offer a very superior quality image, and also very less inter-image distance, and it has very high data download rate, and definitely it meets all the requirements of the strategic community in the UO space domain. So on terms of how we can leverage the industries, like we have done it in the past, and also we are currently doing it in C295. In fact, to tell you, we have developed our for the launcher, which was the first initial, we developed the launcher like 30 years back for the Pinaka, and also for the missiles. So then we have developed the our vendor so much that now he has become our own competitor. Now he is competing against us. So that means we actually give the kind of the leeway and flexibility, and then we allow them to develop, and then definitely yes, we would like our vendors to come up and compete with us, so that we are forced to go to the next new space. Otherwise you will stay in the same place. Yeah. So with that in mind, I think you may know, like C295 also, we are having a lot of vendors, and we are developing many vendors, lot of indigenization effort. Even in the satellite segment also, I think the first one will be totally sourced from our but even the subsystems we have built, but everything has come from our technology partner. But subsequently, I think a lot of indigenization will be done, and we will be involving all the MSMEs and the Indian designers. So with that, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Ved Prakash. I think he made an important point that their philosophy is to build and then design. Although there are many thoughts, and my own thought is that our current, one of the most areas where we lack is giving support to R&D, and that is what is really the key. Manufacturing a build to print gets easy, but that is an area. And looking at big industrial houses, I think one of the areas that you may like, I hope somebody asks this question. I'm just prompting you that why our big industrial houses are not aggressive on R&D and innovation as much as they should be. It is just a feel. We may be wrong because you are spending the money, and like you said, your philosophy is to first straight away get into a profitable build to print or set up TOT. So this is an area which is always a question mark in many of the seminars that we discuss. And in the session in the end, I would like you to just throw light on this as to what is your philosophy, how do you want to go, and what should we do to convince you to put money in R&D and support the infrastructure, indigenous one. We'll quickly go over to Mr. Vikas from L&T. You know what I have in mind, so please see that you discover, put some new thoughts on the table.
Good evening. Thank you, sir. I will try and live up to your expectations. I'm Vikas Khita. I work with Larsen & Toubro. L&T or Larsen & Toubro or L&T as we are known. So we've been development come production partners to both ISRO and to DRDO for 50 years each. And so in part, I am also trying to respond to one of your queries. We've been at R&D over the last 5 decades at least. I thought I'll take up points from a space ecosystem perspective in India. So rather than speak about L&T or So in 2022, the entire Indian space ecosystem stood at about 8.4 billion, whereas the world was at 440 billion US dollars. Now, as an industry, we've made a commitment or an aspirational statement to the government that we aim to grow at a CAGR of 16%. That is to say that by 2033, we aim to be a $44 billion industry. Now, it sounds like a big jump, but when you look at the other sectors, this will remain an infant sector even by 2033. The other sectors would be much larger by then. Now, in this $44 billion space economy, the biggest chunk is going to be downstream, which is services. So that's about 32.1 billion. The upstream, which is the launch segment, is around 9.5 billion. So it aims to, the objective is to grow it to at least that kind of size. And there is about 25% of this 44 billion is expected to come from exports. So that is India exercising both hard and soft power. And our objective is to be the most dominant regional power in space by 2033. I see Dr. Anjana Kaul smiling. We'll discuss offline if there are doubts. This entire ecosystem will require a private sector investment of about $22 billion over the next 10 years. Now, these are not small numbers. We're talking about very large sums here. And therefore, there are serious players into this. Now, what kind of enablers are going to be needed to get to these points? So, from a macro perspective, so what is the ecosystem itself? So, we've got to look at localization of input materials, localization of parts, components. So there's space-grade materials, so composites. The raw material for composites actually comes from Japan, gets shipped to Germany and Belgium. We import it from there. Now, if we were to start making composites in India, it also helps the civil aviation sector. The Tatas have just got into manufacturing of aircraft. Now, that's something that as a nation we ought to be firmly focused on. I think NAL is experimenting with a 25-ton per annum composite manufacturing plant, but we're going to need several hundred times more that capacity if we have to get anywhere. The other aspect is, of course, electronics. So there's an ecosystem being created, a lot of push, there's a lot of pull from the markets. And then there's sensors and semiconductors. Again, a lot of serious and large players, including L&T, have got into semiconductors. But in semiconductors, most of the thrust appears to be on build to print, whereas what is actually needed is also design capability. So as of now, I think we are the only ones who are entering with the design capability. Apart from this, what's going to be needed are launch ports. Just having one launch site in the country is not going to help. We also need to make bookings in advance for launch dates, because that is an area, if you look at the calendar, you find you are already outbooked. We need space parks, so those are manufacturing clusters. And here actually our experience as industry has been state governments in all good intent come forward and offer land and all kinds of SOPs. The moment the investment is made, you will never see any of the officials from the state government again. So whereas that industrial cluster will be languishing without power, without security, with unpaved roads and all kind of things. So these are things that we will have to consciously avoid if we have to nurture and retain serious players in this business. Clearly, we also need a tiered supply chain ecosystem. So that will happen. It's already in the making. At the moment, startups play a significant role, but we also have to keep an eye on their funding and their resources, because the next thing that will happen is the startups will either get gobbled up or their resources will be taken away. So we have to watch out for these things and nurture the startups, allow them to grow. On the policy front, here's your point, ma'am, the space law, the famous space law which remains elusive. So frankly, all that is being done today is illegal. There is no law. Right? We also need an FDI policy. So there was a revised FDI policy which awaits implementation, perhaps after the general elections. There are issues of industry seeking incentives, because if you have to kickstart a sector, I mean, we are talking about a very large industrial sector now to be kickstarted. So you will have to incentivize, not necessarily the large players, but at least the smaller players. There are issues of inverted GST structure. So on launch vehicles, our GST is 5%. On the input material, it's 18%. So what happens is your capital gets blocked till the time you get a refund. That's not ideal conditions for a businessman. Then there are issues of sovereign guarantee and insurance cover. Again, the legal community. And on the policy front, I think we have to get away from this L1 mentality. It's hurting us both in the defense sector and now also in the space sector. We simply need to move into a system of procurement which relies entirely only on a strong QCBS. On technology and skilling, yesterday during the war game, the space game, at least, which was it was an eye opener to me, at least in several senses. Well, That was the first time I could appreciate the kind of things the military planners and the strategists actually go through on a daily basis, day in and day out. And I could see that while there is interest on part of industry, we are miles away from actually being at a stage where, with confidence, one can say we will be able to meet the requirement on demand. So there is a lot that we have to do there. So we start with Indian space standards. There are none. Now that itself is going to take a while, setting standards. We need joint government and private sector joint design and development. Now that's a big ask. Historically, in India, the government and the private sector have always looked at each other suspiciously. It continues till this date. Access to test facilities. I was delighted to hear from my colleague from Bell that some of their test facilities will be opened up to industry as well. Did I get that right? To industry also? Yeah. But then we need more such test facilities in the country. We will need some imports. So Atmanirbhar Bharat is fine, but there are certain areas where we will have to leapfrog. So some areas where we will need import enabling, and one of them will be in semi-cryo technologies that will be particularly useful when we get into the NGLV, the next generation launch vehicles, or the reusable launch vehicles. One area which I majored in aerospace engineering at a time when aerospace and propulsion engineering, at a time when there were just two of us in the class. So, and that was a subject because no one, in India, you don't get jobs for that. So we had to work abroad. There weren't any jobs for us. But then space and systems engineering needs to be a discipline, at least in some of the engineering colleges, and it needs to have due focus. Lastly, on technology and skilling, our assessment is skill demand will far outstrip skill availability. And that's a very, that's something which will make or break us. And this is, sir. So we will have to scale up, and frankly, I'm banking on the veteran community. So, retirement days seem to be getting over. Please get back to work. There are certain key recommendations that we also had made, and that is the armed forces, the central government and the state government departments will need to act as anchor customers. So it's a fledgling industry, and without anchor customers you don't get anywhere. And there have been a lot of talk, at least over the last 3 years, but I've yet to see some action on the ground. Private sector, satellite-driven data, communication, navigation, Veda Prakash has already talked about that. A level playing field will be needed between the public sector and the private sector. Now, when that will happen, God alone knows, but we are hopeful. When I say a level playing field, the private sector is answerable to its shareholders on return on equity, return on investment, whereas the public sector is not really answerable. So that's the first step. So when you invite bids, please keep that in mind. Technology transfer will be needed from ISRO to the private sector, not necessarily only to the big companies, but also to the smaller firms. And lastly, continuity of orders will be vital for those sector. So without the launch, without having a space economy, frankly, whatever we are discussing is in space. We will need some enabling for exports. And one of the thoughts that have been submitted to the government is to also consider having space attaches, especially in the southern hemisphere. There are areas where, especially when you are doing prototypes, so the minimum order quantity is usually greater than what you need for a prototype. Where the government norms will at the time of development, you just pay only for the prototyping. So what does the small supplier do then? How does he fund it out of his pocket? How does he? I mean, these are very practical steps, and they're very visible when you look at the tenders, the bids, you examine all of that. These all they come out very strongly in the face. PLI will at some point in time be needed. At this juncture, we're not asking for it because there isn't an industry to speak of. And lastly, in space, our regulator. So we sort of hope that InSpace will continue to drive the vision and the strategy of the sector. If you have to do anything, in the military space, it's important to first have an ecosystem which can also be leveraged for the military applications. Today, the civilian ecosystem itself is just in infancy. So I'll rest my case here, and I'm open to questions. Thank you, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, Mr. Ved Prakash. I think we'll tackle all the questions in the end. I think you've made very significant points in terms of what the industry expectations are from users, from ecosystem, what points, what areas. And coming from a company involved in this area for 50 years in space, or virtually the entire our space history, and also involved in manufacturing and R&D. If you have these expectations or these points, imagine what happens to companies of smaller size, MSMEs, startups. So this really sums up where we are today on the industrial side. Only point I have is that many of this you have to answer as much as the other ends in terms of policy and in terms of users in this thing. By you, I mean industry. So we all have to really put our heads as to what should we start doing. I think that is what is important. I don't dispute any of the points you made. I think all valid, all very important. And if we are just waiting for, I'll give you a simple example that it is a given that services need, good, high accurate surface data, be it mapping, be it, EOIR, multispectral, all images. We are buying from outside. You just have to put satellites. That's why Tata has done it. The use case is so clear. You just have to put satellites, create that information, services will buy it. But if you wait for services to put an order and for a 5-year order, it's not going to happen. It is not how its system moves. Okay, so that what Tata has done, only point I have is why external tech in terms of EO, because there should be enough by indigenous by now. But that aside, that is the way in terms of COM, in terms of data, in terms of EOIR, everything to do with services. The information that is being consumed by defense or by the civil, it is there for the taking. The industry needs to step into it, and the big players need to lead that. So that is just a point that we need to discuss during question hour. Mr. Samitra, please, for your impressions and on the industry side.
Yeah, Chief Marshal Bhadauria, thanks for inviting us. Anil, good job done. General Pabu, very good job done. This is my second year I'm attending. I am impressed. And where is Rajiv? I don't see him. Because you covered quite a few points, I'm Samit Ray from Raytheon Technologies. We are the largest aerospace defense company in the world. We make space products end-to-end. Solutions are from end-to-end. Spacecrafts to space suits to satellite launchers to satellites. Many of the points have been covered by my previous panelists. I would not venture into that. Many of them are actually on-ground realities. The startup ecosystem, I'm just coming out of a meeting of MOD in the morning. The whole discussion was on MRO. Why are the foreign OEMs not investing in MROs? Vikas just now mentioned the inverted duty structure. the MRO is taxed at 5% flat GST, but the inverted duty structure on components, parts, range anything from 18% to 28%. The MRO players in the country tell us that they don't get their refunds for more than 12 to 14 months. An industry which is working on 10% margins, working capital is, the cost of capital is around 10 to 12%. Your cash gets blocked for 12 months, 14 months, you're finished. So our whole supply chain development that we have done in the country over the last 25 years, we are the first foreign OEM to invest in manufacturing in the country. Today we run 3 manufacturing facilities, several engineering centers, and the latest investment that we're looking at is the MRO facility. Space is something that we are looking at very, very closely. We are talking to a lot of young budding startups, trying to understand what they would like to get into. We are talking to the US government as to what all ITA restrictions can be eased out, which are the satellites, the subsystems that we can bring into the country. And you'll be surprised to know that US government has been very, very forthcoming. A very high level delegation is visiting India in the next 2 weeks during the RISINA dialogue, led by NSA Jack Sullivan for the ISET dialogue. Space is one of the topics of discussion under the ISET. So that's the level of focus that both countries are attaching to space. You must have heard about the NISAR project between the two countries. There are several hundred projects that are going to come up over the next 2 decades. When we work with NASA in the US, we get visibility to a 2-decade roadmap. 2-decade roadmap. That this is what the future is going to look like. This is what we would like to get into. The one thing that we don't see from ISRO is the next 2-decade roadmap. What is that roadmap that the industry would like to work on? What is the roadmap that ISRO would like industry to focus on? What are those solutions that ISRO would want industry to kind of look at closely, manufacture, collaborate, work with them? That is the kind of roadmap which will give visibility to the industry to develop those capabilities and indigenize many of those capabilities in the country. I'm not too worried about the regulatory roadmap. The regulatory hurdles Vikas spoke about, I think ultimately these are going to be resolved. We are seeing a lot of traction from Ministry of Road Transport, Ministry of Defense. We are seeing a lot of traction from Ministry of Civil Aviation. We are seeing a whole lot of traction from the National Security Council. They are willing to listen to the industry. They are holding consultations with the industry across the table, trying to understand what are the impediments. We are seeing a lot of interest from the state governments. We have availed a PLI scheme for defense manufacturing, for civil aerospace manufacturing. Land is only one part of it. One of the discussions that we have been having with the government is that when you visit a country like Singapore, I mean, if you go to their industrial parks, you will realize that inside a facility, to build that facility is the industry's job. But to reach to that facility, the infrastructure around that facility is something that the government has to build. The state governments have to build. Today, when you look at Bangalore, I've just joined the vision group of the Aerospace and Defense of Government of Karnataka. They had their first meeting a couple of weeks back. The industries minister was chairing that, and he said that, what does industry look at? And I said that, look, we have just now invested $250 million in manufacturing and engineering. And when we look at the infrastructure in the industrial parks, it's pathetic. I mean, how do you expect us to employ thousands and thousands of people if you do not have proper transport, proper connectivity, poor quality power supply, no entertainment around those people? They are engineers that we are trying to hire. How do you expect people to move into these facilities? Similarly, see, the investments are not going to happen in Delhi. Investments are all going to happen outside of Delhi. So while Government of India is good to talk to from a policy perspective, but it is really the state governments who have to come forward, who have to step up if they really want to attract investments from the industry. What happens is when we bring in our principles and try to show them, let's say Karnataka or Telangana or let's say UP. So you are heading UP corridor. I was in Lucknow 2 years back as part of the US ISPA board delegation. I told this to Honorable Chief Minister that, sir, you are asking us to invest in that corridor now, which is still a long way to go as far as infrastructure is concerned. What we would like you to do is first at least develop and give us the trunk infrastructure. They took it very seriously, I'll tell you that, they took it very seriously. Mr. Arunveer Singh was also there, who heads Yamuna Expressway and the Jewar Airport. The infrastructure that's coming around Jewar Airport, we saw the master plan, they took us to the master plan. That was impressive. Many of the industries that were accompanying us, they also said that UP lacks what you called as the security factor around your facilities, the law and order situation. Karnataka may not have good roads like Noida, but Karnataka has a reasonably better security perception in the minds of the people than in the minds of people about UP. That perception needs to change. On-ground situation has to change. They took it very seriously. Chief Minister took it very seriously. And I again visited Mr. Arunveer Singh about a month ago in Jewar Airport. We manage air traffic management for Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, and a couple of other airports. We were talking about the air traffic management, So the concern here amongst foreign OEMs is this, that when we bring our principles into India, you must realize that they also go around the world looking for where to put in the money. They look at Korea, they look at Brazil, they look at Poland, they look at Turkey, they look at Australia, they look at Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore. Then they come to India and they travel, they get into a nice swanky airport, but the moment they travel outside the airport, the entire vision of a on the verge of breaking into the third largest economy of the world gets shattered. It really gets shattered. And sir, we are at a loss in trying to make our principles understand that how can a country, which is now the 5th largest economy, have worse roads, worse infrastructure than a 10th largest economy of the world? After, let's say, 7 years, if we were to become the 3rd largest economy of the world, today Japan is the 3rd largest economy of the world. And when you compare the 3rd largest economy's infrastructure with our infrastructure, it has to match. It has to live up to the reputation of a 3rd largest economy of the world. And that is where, and that has to be supported by regulatory, mechanism that has to be supported by ease of doing business. The ease of doing business, we are improving a lot. We have improved a lot over the last decade. But we are still a long way to go. Long way to go. There's a whole lot of foreign OEMs who are watching India very, very closely. Our governments, when they go to the US, there's a lot of interest in the US industry as to what is happening in India. These are the fence sitters. They ask us, what has been your journey like? What has been your experience like? Did you run into troubles? They hear a lot about corruption. They hear a lot about poor infrastructure. And we tell them that, look, we started very small. Today we have revenues $1.5 billion plus in the country. We export more than $500 million worth of goods from India. The market is big. Now this is the market which can attract billions of dollars in investments. Billions of dollars in investments. Today, both countries, US and India, talk about co-development and co-production. Right now, we have a classic, 2 programs that's going through a co-production examination by both governments. They should be able to announce in the next 2 months. This whole co-production, co-development is the stage where we need to take the space to. Ultimately, that should be the end game. We need the space sector to live up to, probably exceed the defense manufacturing and defense ecosystem area. Space is the next thing. Space can't be undermined. Tomorrow's war, General Pamu, you will agree, General Bhadauria, you will agree that tomorrow's war is not going to be fought on the grounds. It's the air superiority. It's the sensors, the radars, the eyes on the sky that's actually going to help you save your people and not really get into hand-to-hand combats. Today you would have all heard about the MQ-9 Sea Guardian drones that India has bought from General Atomics. It flies at 50,000 feet, but from 50,000 feet, it can exactly tell you across the border inside China where the infrastructure is. Across Pakistan where the infrastructure is. So we provide the radars and sensors for that drone. So that's why we are privy to some of this information. But the bottom line, what I wanted to convey was, we as foreign OEMs, we remain committed to India. We would very much like to work with the Indian startups and the Indian industry. I'm very happy to say that companies like Tata's, companies like L&T, Mahindra's, they are no longer when they started 25 years ago. Today, when you go to their facilities, when you look at the systems they are manufacturing, the capabilities that they have developed, one realizes how far they have traveled. The kind of investments these guys have made. Similarly, the startup ecosystem. Let's nurture them, let's not kill them. You will hear a lot about so many startups coming up. What you don't hear about is how many startups die because of lack of funding, because of lack of orders. They have limited cash flow, very limited cash flow. And if there are no guaranteed orders, how will they survive? So that's the world that they're living in, uncertainty. So we handhold quite a few startups, we fund them and make sure that they're not having to live the trauma of where is my next money going to come from, where is my next investment going to come from. So with that, I will rest my case, hand it back to you, Bhadauria sir, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Sumit. I think some important points made. Firstly, visibility. NASA gives 2 decades, maybe in terms of technology vision, even longer. That is something we don't have or we don't do, or where we do, it doesn't get followed. So there's a whole lot of complications there. Secondly, infrastructure. Again, valid points. I think that was the start point of why 2 defense corridors were brought up. But state governments are notoriously famous for setting up infrastructure and not following up, or infrastructure degrading. I think that's an area we need to keep addressing. Thank you to all the panelists. I think quickly I'll just summarize some of the points. I think very valid points made by all. The importance of where we are today in space and the kind of opening up of this sector which has been done by the government. The opportunities are huge. I don't know, Vikas, whether we want to become world leaders, but I am saying just at least sort out what our needs are, should be met by our industry, and we should hold our own against China. If these are the 2 targets that get met in the next 5 years, or at least we have sorted the basic in terms of our own, being self-reliant in these 2 areas, be it on defense, especially so in defense, but equally on the civil side. If that is the aim, I think there is a lot to be done. The entire ecosystem today is waiting for, it is just a chicken and egg story. I want to summarize it as the users need to quickly start putting down what are the existing use cases to the industry and what is the future. Therefore, the visibility of next 2 decades. In requirements, frozen means visibility, or in expectations, that means technology. The next generation technologies for space related. For the existing, the industry needs to put in place those assets to meet that. It's all information related. I think services are moving towards buying information rather than placing assets. And that is the way, so industry needs to start putting those assets. Technology development and R&D is absolutely important. I think the points made towards startups and innovation is huge. I think the big industry and DPSUs like Bell need to really be the enablers for this technology development in the startup academia and MSME ecosystem. That is, I think, the key to bring in the R&D and thereafter maximize it. And the big industrial partners need to handhold these and give them equal importance as they would give to buying out technology. Buying out technology is easy first step. It is well understood. But we have to have this leap of faith to develop our own indigenous tech, support them and take it forward. I think somebody has made very valid point of startups funding. Funding, if it gets largely foreign, there are issues of ownership, the issues of resources being gone, issues of technology being known. I think those are areas, especially in the strategic field, which needs to be kept in mind. Again, it comes back to the larger players and the DPSUs and government to some extent to handhold. Programs like IDEX are game changers, but IDEX and all, or the government can only fund a certain limit. It can never fund the entire thing. And the ecosystem or the innovation in how to fund needs to again come from the industry. Again, I say that the consumption of defense services and civil requirements is well known. So, like you do a assessment of any other consumption pattern of any other service in the world, this needs to be done in a similar manner and assets located there. In terms of tech, I'll just spend a minute. I think I've been warned that I should finish in 4-5 minutes. I think the next generation tech is where we need to leapfrog. Be it in terms of data backbones, communication backbone, be it in very advanced sensors, and be it in our capabilities to network, utilize quantum computing, and those kind of secure systems. That is the key. Interlink our space and cyber related pillars. That is the key to our USP in terms of growth and taking on the China threat seriously in the immediate future, in the immediate next decade. And thereafter we can think of taking over the world. But at least let us meet our own requirements indigenously from our industry. I think with those thoughts, I will throw it open quickly, 2-3 questions, and thereafter we wind up. Yeah, please go ahead. You can yell the question, we need to save time.
Hello sir, my question is to you. I think there's a lot of
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of important points made by both government body and industry as well. But I think the reason why, as you said, there's lack of R&D in Earth observation in LEO from an industry perspective, like primes like Bell and L&T. I think primes are structured in such a way that they are not efficiently able to compete with fledgling startups that are booming like Pixel, Dhruva Space, and even government bodies are structured in such a way that they are not able to augment all these different facets of the startup ecosystem. So do you agree with me on that, or do you have any comments? And my second question is, once the space industry matures in the next 5 years, there's going to be like 50 startups that are performing efficiently. And just like 1990s when 20 primes in the US merged into 3, do you think there's a potential for primes that are sitting in the panel to acquire those startups? And if so, what happens to the startup ecosystem? So do you have any comments on that?
No, I totally agree that, I'm sure you are saying from the perspective of startup, those issues that you have flagged, I am in agreement that is not what is happening. There is unfair competition. The startups don't get due attention or funding in terms of actually the primes or the big industrial partners should take this responsibility or take on some of these startups and absorb the technology. In times to come, it will happen that if 50 startups are successful, you will merge with some sort of consortium or with the bigger players, which is not bad, which we should not worry about. But the issue is that whatever we develop, the IPR needs to be Indian, needs to stay here, and needs to get absorbed and needs to translate to product and manufacturing. If the larger ecosystems just keeps buying TOT and keeps manufacturing, the requirements are met. The services don't look at, they are not worried. Services are not responsible for, startup ecosystem becoming successful. It is our ecosystem that should develop, and that is the industry responsibility. I think DPSUs and big industrial partners are big enablers and drivers. That is my response. Now please hear them. Please.
So I thought I'll just clarify. In L&T, we have a startup incubation program. So we've been incubating quite a few startups. I also know that a few other companies, you speak, Tata's also have one. So we have been incubating startups. And so it's, so I think somewhere your information sources need to be more updated.
As I already informed that yes, we have also been incubating startups, but may not be in the defense and aerospace field. But the Tatas, I think, it is in the forefront of incubating the startups. But we wanted to give a proven technology and a space which has already a space heritage. Like our TOT partner has got more than 10 years of space heritage, and then there are no failures. So we want only from that objective, because there was a pressing need, and we wanted to leapfrog to the requirement. So only because of that we took that step, and then we have given. It is not that it is not the end. So we have begun our journey through the Earth observation. There are lots and lots of technology where still there are opportunities for tie-ups and then acquisition of the startups, and all that is still open. So even in the UO also there are a lot of the technology like 0.3 meter or 0.2 submetric. We are already there in the up to 0.5 meter, but so further down, yes, there is an opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, sir, Colonel Aswal here. My question is what Admiral, the Chief prompted on the R&D aspect, which he said, let someone ask this question from the industry, and your rebuttal thereof on the incubation and startups. So by far I found this one of the most interesting portion, where there was a lot of counters on both sides, PSUs on one side, we had the industry, and if you go down here, there are a lot of stalls, and you see some of the government-sponsored incubated startups which are here. So very nice, sir. And just this question was just for asking you that it also answers what is the R&D aspect of percentage, whether it's Raytheon or Tata Advanced Systems or what L&T Defense. Just a word to also when you reply to what is your percentage you are. On an average, if you do over 3% into R&D for whatever is your this thing in your budget, I think you would be doing good. And of course, Rome is not built in one day, as Samit told. This is the second DevSat, and it has already taken steps, and compliment General Panu and his team. And I'm sure by the third, we'll have much better things coming up. Thank you.
Okay. I think most of the comments have been made, but I just want to add that I've interacted with a lot of startups, and some of them were here. The issue is, I think what irks them is that if something that they are developing is being kind of bought from outside, that is the issue. So as an industry, as startups, we need to not allow that to happen, and as users. And if we have waited for 10 years or 5 years for something that has not happened, let's wait one more year. Nothing is going to happen. But and build your indigenous R&D. I think somewhere mid path we have to take. Yeah, please.
Thank you, sir. Myself,
Mr. Prakash,
Pravas.
just 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'll just end in less than a minute.
Quick one.
Yeah, sir, I run a defense accelerator as well as alternative investment fund. So we are working with around 48 tech startups. I mean, 90% of them are actually run by veterans as well as tech startups. What challenges we are facing is not getting incubated at fund, but actually getting their MVP used by mostly the OEMs as well as big companies. And we just came to know that 25,000 crore Indian Armed Forces is planning to invest in space, satellite, as well as communication. What is needed is a hyperlocal connected and hyper distributed channel where most of the corporates don't get into that innovation very quickly because of their rigid structures. So that is where the startups can actually intervene and innovate very fast. So is there a way where startups or SMEs can work with large companies and take it to the government either in India procurement or overseas so that we can secure our borders as well as men in uniform? Thank you.
IDEX is already existing structure. So IDEX is one, and certainly the large companies.
He's happy with the government. He's saying bigger industry, if you can, like you have your own innovation system, but.
Okay, at least on this panel, there are two companies who are on record. We have said that we have incubation programs. Now you have to write in. And two of my colleagues are sitting right next to you. You can please exchange cards there.
And I think one of the points what you're trying to say is, what do we procure from whom? Okay, so some sort of this thing is to be done when you give your tenders or when you give your requirement that this can come from the bigger industry, this only DPSUs, this only MSMEs or small players, and so that to energize and to keep the funds flowing into each of these. Otherwise, the MSMEs and below are getting throttled because of the lack of fund. That is the issue. So somehow that needs to be done. Otherwise, the DPSUs will always outbid private players, and private players will always outbid MSMEs and startups. So if we remain in this, L1 bidding, it will happen like that. I'm sitting on the wrong side, but I hope I hope you are with me on the sense of it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It was very clear, like anything happening in blockchain, Web3 and AI, the startups has to come and intervene. They have to disrupt. And there was a very separately, the budget, the fund, the agenda, everything was created and it was given to TOF to nurture it and take it to the next level. But we don't see that all of the defense industrial corridors now have been created or is next planned to be created in next 6 months to 12 months down the line. So if that could be defined, it will give us a clear roadmap for startups to put an agenda and working towards it. At the same time, getting funding from overseas can be possible and it's already happening. So it's not difficult really. But we just need that clarity both from the government as well as industry and armed forces.
I think as part of your 3 days of seminar, some of these issues need to go into your kind of summary and some recommendations as part of the seminar, which I'm sure the government will look at carefully. Because such issues are what are bothering the industry, and if you have a clear-cut this thing, it's not easy to do, but we have to be innovative if you want to handle space industry in a different manner. We are in the beginning and it is possible to handle it. That is the best thing. And a lot of it can be put in our policy so that we basically the fund flows into each sector. I think we have to ensure that. I think thank you very much. I have always last 4-5 minutes I have been under pressure to close this session. I want to thank SIA, I want to thank Mr. Prakash and St. John's for organizing this, for inviting me, and all the panelists. Thank you very much. Great interaction. I think we need to continue our thought process on this. Thank you.
Thank you, esteemed panelists. Thank you, esteemed chair. We request you to kindly give us a group photo op. And we quickly move on to our next panel discussion, which is Space Policies, Doctrines and Strategies for Safeguarding India's Security Interests. I'll request the esteemed panelists of this session to kindly join us back amongst the audience.
To tell you that I get dividend also regularly.
Great.
Conflict of interest.